Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the Political Brown Kid here. I just want to drop a real quick um, podcast on you guys. Just real quick. I just want to clarify a few things as you go forth and you start listening to content that you're going to hear on this platform. Because there are going to be a few things that I'm probably going to say, and I'm not going to repeat myself because I don't have time in every post to provide context to some terms that I'm going to use. Because you can probably hear me say terms like talking whiter, or you're going to hear, um, you may hear me reference black on black crime or things like that. I don't have time to provide the context, but I'm going to provide the context in this um, post right here. And here it goes. This is really white lies told and repeated by black people that black people have adopted. Again, like I said, white people, they have an agenda too. And these are typically, a lot of this is coming from conservative whites, because conservative whites are kind of like, they have their head in the sand as far, not, I'm not trying to say that they're, some of them are malicious, but some of them, I think they're just like, we just need to get along. This race stuff is just too complex, and they just can't really see or empathize with what black people are going through. So in order to combat what a lot of black people are go through on a daily basis, they start spouting out all of this other stuff to basically put black people in a trick bag. That's what they're doing. They're putting you in a trick bag. And a lot of black people, they wind up getting in that trick bag, and they zip it up for the white man themselves. They just do. Black people, there are a lot of black people that are easily fooled because they have weak minds. But let me just start off with these lies told to blacks that are repeated by blacks. The first lie is black on black crime. Anytime you start talking about injustice and crime that has, or how black people have been wronged, when black people start fighting for their rights and basically talking about how white people have wronged them, a white person always wants to come back with, well, how come you don't talk about black on black crime? Black on black crime occurs all the time, and I don't see you getting mad about that. You're not protesting that. Let's say this. Let me just say this about black on black crime. And I think and what I will say is this: I've seen a lot of stations, particularly I'll say CNN and probably even MSNBC. They've been good at addressing black on black crime, or at least having black people come on there and address black on black crime. It's a white dude. He's on Sirius Radio. He's on I think I forget which one, but he's a very good white guy. He's on, like, I think it's channel 126, 127. He's either on Progress or he's on the other one. And he breaks it down eloquently too. He gets it. Every race has X on X crime. There's Asian on Asian crime. There's white on white crime. There's black on black crime. There's white on black crime. There's black on white crime, and so forth. You can matrix this all day long. There are various permutations of X on X crime. So let's stop playing semantics and games and trying to put black people in trick bags by trying to diffuse and excuse me. I keep coughing for whatever reason every time I pick up this damn microphone. But for whatever reason, they always want to put a black person in a trick bag and start diverting the conversation of black on black crime to not address the real issue. They have no comeback for why some black person got his ass whooped. And so they want to change the conversation to talk about your deficiencies as a human being. White people are very good at that. I'm telling you, white people, they never really they don't like to lose. I've already talked about that. They don't like to lose. You can lose. Black people can lose all day long. Asians can lose all day long. Native Americans can lose. White people don't like to lose. So what they either do is they won't even address your premise. And I used to listen to these conservative radio because I like to listen to what other people are talking about. And the one thing that they'll say is you never accept the premise of the other party. Because once you accept the other party's premise, you've already kind of lost. So if I tell you the sky is blue, you can be looking at that sky, and that sky can be blue as hell. And what they said, they won't accept the premise, because then if you say, yeah, well, the sky is blue, then you've already lost. So what they'll do is they say, no, you're crazy. You're kidding. No. And then they'll divert and they'll do other things to to shift and pivot the conversation. That's what they do. I'm not making this up. Look it up. They do not accept the premise of the other party, because once you start accepting the premise of the other party, the other party has set the foundation for the conversation. So that's why they come up with this black on black crime, and they won't accept to hear that conversation, because then they have to acknowledge that. I mean, they accept black on black crime. They don't accept white on black crime. They don't accept black injustice. They don't accept that premise. So that's why they pivot to black on black crime, because it shifts the conversation away from the demonic things that white people do to blacks, and it puts the onus on black people to address other issues. And some black people fall for it. But every race has crime because that's who you're associated with. It is. That's who you're typically around. And if you look at it even further, there's neighborhood on neighborhood crime. If you're from a certain neighborhood, more than less likely the person committing if somebody gets beat up, if there's an assault, or if there's a rob, normally it's happened from somebody in that community. There's a drug deal that went down, and somebody in that community that probably put it down. So you can go neighborhood on neighborhood crime, or neighborhood crime, intra-neighborhood crime. You assault the people who you most likely hang out with. That's why the crime exists. And I think, like I said, CNN and MSNBC, I will give them props for at least having people on their show who acknowledge that. I will acknowledge, like I say, the white, I forget the white guy's name, but he's on Sirius XM radio on channel 126 or 127. It's not too many of them on those stations. It's a white guy, and he acknowledges that. So black on black crime, let's stop using that. It's all people on, there's various permutations of race on race, whatever race on whatever race crime. And black on black crime is a part of that. Then let me tell you a little something. And this is coming from my brother. God bless my brother. I love my brother, but this is why you need to have more than just a high school education. I swear to God. This is why you can't be ignorant all your life, because there's a lot of ignorant people walking around on planet Earth. This dude calls me up. I swear to God, he called me up and he said, he was talking to me, and he brought up the George Floyd incidences and the riots. And then he gonna start talking about, yeah, man, all these black people, they don't care about the crimes and the getting justice for the other black on black crime in their neighborhood. Here we go, black on black crime. So you could tell that he's been listening, and God, you have to forgive him. He lives in North Carolina. So God knows what kind of information he's getting. The god-awful state of North Carolina, where racism is bred and conservatives and Bible clutching is ubiquitous. But he spouted off this ignorant stuff. Let me tell you something. So let me address this, that blacks don't care about justice regarding black on black crime. But yet we always complaining when a white police officer or white person does us injustice. Let me say something about this. That is probably the most foolish thing. If you ever say this out your mouth, somebody will slap you 25 times what a sock filled with doo-doo. Seriously. For you to say something this foolish out your mouth. And God bless my brother for saying something this foolish, but he did. Let me tell you something. When people get killed, there's a couple of types of crimes, because we're talking about, let's just focus on murders, homicides. Unfortunately, there's several types of homicides that occur in neighborhoods. Typically, those homicides revolve around somebody in the drug game, at least as far as when you're talking about, at least in my experience in communities that I are familiar with. Yeah, I grew up middle class, so we didn't really have a whole bunch of craziness, but people I knew in neighborhoods that were nearby, because when you grew up middle class, you grew up around, and when you grew up middle class in the city, you grew up around everybody. You grew up around doctors, lawyers, and then you grew up around the most thoroughest gangsters ever put on planet Earth. And most of those murders occur due to dumb shit that happened in the streets. Those people are out in the streets, living the street life. They about that life, as people say. And the other person is about that life. And for whatever reason, maybe it's over some money, or over an argument, something goes down and somebody gets murdered. Now, I'm not just trying to say that somebody should lose their life, but sometimes it's about, hey, look, this person's going to murder me. I'm going to murder that person. And usually those people, you're like, yeah, well, that person was living a particular lifestyle. And you're mad. That's not to say that you're not seeking justice, but those person was involved in something. And then there's just sometimes some people just, hey, why did this person have to lose his life? Yeah, that person may have been in the streets and doing this, but they weren't doing violent crimes. And that other person just murdered that other person over jealousy. These people are still seeking justice for their families. And then you have those other murders that happen where a young kid just, like, God forbid, you have these young girls getting hit by stray bullets, these little young kids or young boys getting hit by stray bullets from something that they didn't have anything to do with. And yes, people seek justice for that. And sometimes it's sought through street justice. Sometimes it's kind of like, I can't go to the cops because, hey, look, I can't snitch because these people know where I live. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is that type of hood politics where it's like, if I snitch, I can't go on the stand. These people know me. These people know me. I'll never make it to the courthouse to testify. So sometimes you have to be, but sometimes in your neighborhood, it's just kind of like, yeah, well, we got it. We know who did it. We going to get them back. We got them. We going to get them. And so you know that it's going to be handled from a street level. I'm just being honest with you. We talking real. I'm being real. Sometimes you already know at the street level, it's going to be handled or it was handled. And you're like, all right, good. Whatever. And then there are sometimes there are those times when it's just kind of like, the police are working the issue. They're trying to find it and, or they've made an arrest and you're just going to the courthouse and you're just like, I hope he gets 35,000 years. And so arrests are being occurred. But when you're talking about police officers killing people like you've been seeing on TV, number one, they're recorded. You see people not resisting or providing minimal resistance and getting murdered for it. You're seeing excessive force. One time we even saw a police officer shoot a guy 7 times in the back running. The guy turned around and started running, and the police officer just shot him 7 times in the back, then lied until he realized that he was on camera. And then he had to come clean with a story. And then these people get off. No one does jail time. There's a total difference between the two scenarios. One is, yes, somebody did get killed, but the police arrested somebody, due process occurred, and the person went to jail. They may not have got the time you wanted them to get, but that person went to jail. Or maybe they didn't find the person, but the case is active, but somebody's working it. And you probably even working it in your community. Or maybe hey, it's been taken care of. And then you have the police officers killing people with it on videotape, and then not even going to jail. Not even really, some of the times they're not even found, the case doesn't even go to trial. The grand jury doesn't indict anybody. So there's a big difference there. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Another lie that's being told. Let's talk about this thing called talking white. It's not really a lie. I just want to provide clarification. I want to fact check some people. This is a lie been promoted by a lot of black people. A lot of black women have promoted this lie. I'm being honest with you about that. A lot of black women. I heard a black woman on TV before. No black person. I'm not going to say no because that's an absolute. When we talk about talking black, let's clarify something. When somebody says that you're talking white, when somebody labels that or levies that upon you, they're not trying to say that you're getting straight A's or you're acting white. If somebody tells you that you're acting white or that you're talking white, no one's trying to say that you're getting straight A's or you're acting civilized or you're talking proper English, therefore we don't like you and you're talking white. That has been a total myth that has been put out into the universe by black people, which is totally ridiculous and false. Like I said, I grew up in D.C. in the 80s, in the city. Grew up in a middle-class neighborhood, but I grew up around all kind of people. I'm telling you, I've talked regular. I use DC jargon. You'll hear me call somebody Joe, or you'll hear me say certain words that are very DC, that are oh so DC. But you've never heard anybody, but for the most part, you know how to use my words. I know how to use the English language. Nobody, none of my friends from any economic level, because like I said, I had poor friends, I had middle class friends, I had upper middle class friends. Never once. And even when I went to high school, when I went to public high school up in Northwest, and I had some rich friends, not once did anybody ever say you were talking white or acting white. I never, none of us, and I had friends that even talked better than I did. We never levied that upon any of us. And it was never leveled upon us by any of our friends. None of our street friends ever said that. Everybody talked the same. And everyone acted, and no one basically said because we weren't in the streets or because we were doing certain things or because we went to private school that we were acting white or talking white. No one ever said that about me, nor any of my friends. It was never a point of conversation. People may levy acting white upon you if you're skateboarding and you're dressing in golf. Yeah, you may get labeled as that. Yeah, I'm not going to deny you that, because now you're adopting a particular culture. You're wearing black eyeshadow, dressing in all black. You're wearing your hair all spiked up. If you walking around like that in Harlem or in D.C. or in Chicago, yeah, you may get levied with, yeah, he's acting white, but ain't nobody going, this is crazy. So let's just provide differentiation here. No one's saying because you're dressing a certain, people try to make it seem like you have to be acting yo, and yo, money, and just acting all crazy and talking, using broken English. I be got nothing, like trying to just talk like that. That's being the proper black way to talk. No one has ever said that. When you're talking white, yeah, I see a lot of black girls today talking white, and I'm going to put it out there. They're using that vocal fry thing, that vocal. I can't even do it. I'm not even going to try to imitate doing it. But you look up vocal fry. You can Google that, and a video will show you how people talk with the vocal fry. They're talking with this Megan Thee Stallion type language, this Nicki Minaj type language. Some of that is. Some of that, instead of just talking normal. Like Stephen A. Smith, he talks normal. Even Mike Tyson has a high-pitched voice. He's very high-pitched. And sometimes some people used to be like, yeah, listen to the way Mike Tyson talks. They used to kind of, even in Living Color, they used to kind of clown the way Mike Tyson talks. But no one ever said he was talking white. He just has a high-pitched voice, but he talks normal. Stephen A. Smith talks normal. Shannon Sharp talks normal. These are people that talk normal, talking your normal voice. But you will have some of those black people that they'll try and take all of the bass out of their voice, and they'll talk, hey, hi, guy, hey, hi, you know what? And you typically see that from these people on TV, trying to impress the white man. So I just want to clear up that misconception about talking white or acting white. And the last thing I want to talk about that I've been hearing, even black people say it today, and I've heard this one black guy who I really actually like, as a matter of fact. I really like this black guy. And, because I guess people are just so beaten up by racism and just having a black-white yin-yang moment that, now this whole thing has come up that race, there's no such thing as race. Race is a social construct. Are you for real? Are you serious? Race is a social, no, there is a such thing as race. Why the hell do you think Asian people look like Asian people? Black people look like black people. White people look like white people. And then you can drill down into, when you start looking at white people, you can start differentiating sometimes. Okay, this person's from Ireland. This person's from here. You can look at you can definitely look at black people and say, oh yeah, that person's an Aborigine. That person is, and I'm talking about Australian Aborigine. That person is Ethiopian. That person is a Somalian. That person is an Egyptian. That person is definitely from Cameroon, from, that person is Nigerian. You can start breaking things down when you start looking at certain people. Like I can spot a DC person, and I can look at a DC person, I can look at a New York, and I can spot the difference between the two. We used to. Now this stuff is starting to become so blended, but we used to be just by sometimes the way you walk and just your facial expressions and stuff. Seriously. You can look at Asian people sometimes tell, Japanese from Chinese, from Filipino, from Thai. I mean, So race is not a social construct. Race is genetic. Race is race. So stop playing games. Tell that to somebody. Tell that to some black person who got sickle cell anemia that they're the same as a white person. I like to see how that conversation goes about. Tell that to some white person who's getting sunburn and who has sun cancer because he can't stay out in the sun as long as you can. You have to stop denying people's existence. We have to stop denying people's existence and stop saying dumb stuff like, I don't see race. All I see is a human being. I don't care if you're white, green, purple, or blue. There's no such thing as a green, purple, or blue person. Not unless you've been drinking too much colloidal silver, because colloidal silver will turn you blue. You will look like a Smurf if you drink too much colloidal silver in your bloodstream. But there's no such thing as a green person or a blue person or green race or blue race or a purple race. So stop saying dumb stuff. Stop once you get to black, white, and yellow and brown. Just stop right there. No need to go to purple. No need to go to blue. No need to go to green. No need to go to silver. Okay? But that's one of the dumbest things you can say. I don't see race. That's like me saying, I don't see a friend in a wheelchair. I just see a person. I like to see how that goes when I start running up some stairs and start complaining to him why he can't come upstairs and play video games with me. And I don't have a damn ramp in my house or an elevator. Or I don't provide him with assistance and carry him up the stairs. You understand it's okay to recognize the differences in people. You can still say, hey, man, you know what? My best friend he's my best friend, but he's in a wheelchair. I see your wheelchair. I see it. Yeah, you crippled. You crippled. I'm not trying to say that in a negative way, bruh. But yeah, your legs don't work. But I ain't going to treat you any less, but I understand and I see your chair. So therefore, when you come over to my house, I'm going to make sure next time you come over, I'm going to put a ramp in that damn, on my front door, make sure that you can get up make sure you got access to my house. I got you. It's the dumbest thing to try and say that you don't see somebody's wheelchair. That's stupid. Dumbest thing to say, I don't see somebody's whiteness or somebody's Asianness. Or somebody's blackness. I don't see that you're black. I just see a man. Are you freaking kidding me? That's why Apple got in trouble. I'm not going to say they got in trouble, but they had a gaffe moment. A lot of people don't even remember this. A lot of y'all probably don't. Some of y'all probably too young if you're listening. I'm glad if you're young and listening, I'm glad you're listening. But Apple, when they first started rolling out facial recognition, I do believe it was Apple. If it wasn't Apple, I do apologize. But it was one of these phone makers, but I do believe it was Apple. But don't hold me to the Apple thing. One of these phone makers, when they first rolled out facial recognition, I'm only assuming here. This is an assumption. They must have only tested it on white people. Because they must have just assumed, people are people all over the world. People are people all over the world. Just like that little song people used to sing. And they only tested out. I'm assuming they only tested it on white people. So they were like, oh, yes, it works. It unlocked my face and it recognized my face from her face, from his face, from his face. And it only worked for my face. Good. And they rolled it out, and then some black people started posting videos online of, hey, damn, this thing don't even recognize my face. They couldn't unlock their phones with it. I swear to God, I don't make this stuff up. If it wasn't Apple, it was one of them big phone makers, but I'm pretty sure it was Apple. And then when the black people started posting their stuff saying, hey, it doesn't recognize my face. Then some Asian people started saying, hey, I tried it. It doesn't recognize my face either. So Apple and them had to go back. Now, mind you, this was like the first iteration of, facial recognition software. And they had to go back to the drawing board. But that's the purpose of you being able to say, hey, I see you. Just like, what is that in African language? That sawubona or walimu, that term. It's like, hey, I see you and I want to be seen. I see you. I see you. I see everything that you are. I see that you're a female. I recognize that you're a female. I recognize that certain points of the month you're going to possibly go through your cycle. And I have to be respectful of that when, like I can't just start saying crazy stuff out my mouth, or, maybe you're not feeling well. I have to be sympathetic to you being different from me. I have to. If you're a woman, or if you're a different man, or you're a different race, or you're handicapped. But yeah, they had to go back and they had to improve the software. I'm gonna tell you right now, because we're in the George Floyd moment, right? We're in that George Floyd cycle where a lot of things are being changed and a lot of companies are changing due to George Floyd. And God bless him. God rest the dead. But I think it was Amazon, one of these big companies, one of these big tech companies has suspended giving police officers access to their facial recognition software because they said that it doesn't recognize black faces. It's not as effective or 100% as recognizing white faces. So until they make improvements, I think it's until they make improvements, but they've temporarily suspended the usage of facial recognition software. This is called recognizing the differences, the beauty in other people. I should be able to look at a white person and say, man, you're beautiful. You don't worry about, yeah, okay, you have thin lips. I'm not making fun of your thin lips, and you're not making fun of my big lips. You're not making fun of my facial features or Asian person. I'm not making fun of your eyes. I see the beauty in your eyes. I see the beauty in your hair. And then you should be able to see the beauty in my hair. I should see the beauty in your body shape, whether it's flat or whatever. And you should see the beauty in my body shape with the curves. Well, for women with the curves. But we have to get past this moment of where just because something's different from us, we're either going to act like we don't see it, or we're going to go to the other extreme and make fun of it. Look at them bubbly, boogly, wiggly lips. Look at that bubble butt, boogly, boogly, and saying all this crazy stuff. Look at them thin lips. Look at her thin lips. She ain't gonna look. And start making fun of people. And just look at people and say, I see your differences. I like your differences. And just accept people for who they are. I see your wheelchair, and I know that you have limitations from me. But I still, and maybe we can get to a point where, hey, you're joking about your wheelchair, and I can make jokes just like how Ice Cube and Boys in the Hood, when he told his friend, I'll roll your crippled ass off my porch. They obviously have gotten to a point in their relationship where they can make jokes about it. And I'm not trying to say that that's right or wrong, or that's something you can do, but you want to get to a point where maybe white people and black people can joke around with one another, but we're not there yet. We're probably 150 years away from that. I keep saying 150 years. We may be 550 years away from that. But we got to learn to start looking at each other's differences and just respecting them. And that's all this post was. Hopefully this was short enough. I tend to ramble. I'm a rambler, but that's all I wanted to say. And I'm glad that you tuned in to this. This is the Political Brown Kid. Hit me up anytime. Please show support for my platform. And I do appreciate you listening today. Thank you.